Hey everybody, I'm Steve Moore.
And I'm Mark Castleman.
We know the pain and heartbreak of porn and sex addiction.
And we know the triumph of breaking completely free.
Every day, we help our clients find hope and healing.
Join us in the fight to take back your life, your marriage, and be stronger than ever.
This is the PBSE Squared podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the PBSE podcast. This is episode 296.
Coming up on 300.
Oh, my gosh, 300. Don't even say that. I can't. It's unbelievable. Yeah, since we're saying that, thank you to all of us for all these years. My gosh, what are we going on? 6 years?
This will end. We're ending 6 years.
Oh, my.
We'll be starting our 7th year.
Oh, I don't even believe that. That's unbelievable. Well, that's
once I think it's like episode 310 or 312.
Yeah,
start of
like
our
that.
7th year. So,
well, that has a great deal to say about all of you. So
absolutely.
Thank you, all of you, for making this possible.
For sure.
Well, so the title of this episode 296 is When Loving Him Means Losing Me. Do I stay or do I go? And this was a short but very heartfelt submission. I'm just going to read it. We get this a lot from partners, from betrayed partners. I think it's been quite some time since we talked about it in a podcast, so it's probably a good time for it to come up again. But she says, I've been with my husband 21 years, and he has never been in recovery. He does have short periods of sobriety, but then he goes right back to first texting and then in-person sexual encounters. He has never come to me with vulnerability or transparency. I have caught him every time. Mm-hmm. And then she gives the years of the major discoveries over their 21 years of marriage, and there's multiple over spans of years. I am losing myself in this marriage. I feel that each time he promises a lot and then seems to regress to the same behaviors. However, he is so charming that it's easy to be lured back. I know I need to walk away, but I still love him. How do you know when it's time to leave? Do others struggle with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, very short but very heartfelt submission. Our hearts go out to her. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I can only speak to this from the addict side in the specific context, but even contemplating the end of a relationship. Mark, I don't know if I've ever asked you. I don't know if we've actually ever talked, which is weird because we talk about everything, but I don't know how close you got to this, but there were multiple times over a couple of different years where, for different reasons, Brittany and I were really seriously asking the question, like, do we keep going? Mm-hmm. And I remember when I first got married, I was given the advice, probably like many of you, that like we don't ever even use the D word. No. I remember the first time it came up in a discussion. And I remember how scary that was. And then to visit, I mean, that thought is terrifying. Even when there is a potential, and I'm just going to emphasize that, the potential for that needing to happen, just considering such a thing after that many years of marriage. Brittany and I have been married 20 years this year. I mean, it is absolutely heartbreaking and incredibly scary, for practical reasons as well. Like what would that even mean or look like? And we're going to talk about that, but just really do honor the courage to look at that when needed, and just the presence that it takes and the heaviness of being in that headspace.
Yeah, and just the the context of this, the cycle of this 21 years of marriage, but repeated betrayal.
Yeah.
No recovery efforts, some sobriety, then right back to the old stuff. And she's always the one that discovers it, always. I mean, just think of the ramifications of all that, right? It's short bursts of sobriety. Then he goes back into she says texting, but I'm assuming sexting. and then actual real physical sexual encounters. Then she discovers it. Then he makes promises, pours on the charm, and then goes into regressing back into the same thing. It's rinse and repeat.
Mhm. Yeah,
And you can only imagine what that's like for her.
for sure.
I mean,
And
wow.
I mean, and it is the up and the down is it has such an impact on the relationship. Well, it is, and it is important to note that for what it's worth, um, as always, guys, with any topic that's brought up on this podcast, you're not alone in this situation.
No,
Um, Obviously, it feels very isolating for a lot of reasons, but for whatever that's worth to anyone listening to this, you are not alone. There are many who face difficult struggles like this, and there is help like this podcast and Dare to Connect, our program for addict spouses and couples, support groups. There are lots of resources for that, but just do know that this is not something that you are the only one navigating.
no.
Um,
And as we talked about our situation, Steve, before we recorded today, there was something that really jumped out at you and me. She talks about she's felt, it sounds like, for some time, like she just needs to end, right? Because she's just betraying herself.
mhm,
But
yeah,
she keeps being, quote, lured back by his charm.
yeah,
And it would be really easy for a betrayed partner to really take that on as a personal kind of shaming thing. Why am I so weak? Why do I keep getting tricked? Why do I keep going back into this? Because he puts on the charm. We just want to acknowledge right up front that that is a real powerful, powerful lure. After 21 years of marriage, and who knows how long before they got married, they knew each other. When he starts to put on that charm, which appears to be what? The better him, the man she always hoped would come out, right? The higher self. And he starts to show that, although it seems, I don't know if it's sincere on his part or not, but that you can only imagine what a powerful pull that is for her. And we just want her and all partners to know that is not weakness on your part
yeah.
as a partner. You are not flawed, broken, worthless, ridiculous or whatever. This is love. This is life. This is relationship. This, right? This is powerful stuff.
It's 21 years of history and
Yeah.
growing together. You know,
Yeah.
and it is difficult because the relationships can be hard to leave even when they need to be. And again, we're emphasizing that's not what we're saying here. But there, even for example, something can be very toxic, but still be really familiar, right? It's what we've known in this case for 2 decades.
Yeah. And what do you find yourself doing? You find yourself grasping on to the little high points.
Yeah.
Even if they're far and few between. It's like, oh, some hope. Oh, that's him. That's the guy that I married.
Well, because when it's good, it's really good,
Yeah.
right? So again, yeah, very, very difficult, as well as considering, the potential for, what would lie next on the other side of a decision like that. We'll say this though, and those who've listened to the podcast for a while probably know where Steve's going with this because I say it often. One key phrase here: I love him, but I feel I'm losing myself. And every person has a unique story in this. Every partner who comes to the table, whether it's to our clinics individually or to our D2C program, or who writes us into the podcast, each of you has a different history with how grievous, or I should say, how traumatizing the history has been, how lengthy, how up and down, right? Your resiliency factors there. Everyone's story is unique and different. In other words, we all have a different bank account, right? There's a different bank account for every partner about how much they can quote unquote give to this process based on past withdrawals, investments beforehand by him and by you. But what I have observed, and I think Mark feels the same way, is that when we start giving away pieces of ourself to continue a relationship or to keep it going, we start to move past compromising and trying to see the other side and empathizing and connecting with the pain, and we move to I now have to on a core level give up parts of myself or be something that I'm not. That would be kind of akin to we stopped making withdrawals from the bank account, and it's like we're kind of tearing bricks off of the side of the bank building and giving
Right.
those away now to try to cover the balance.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You really hear that in her submission.
yeah.
Right. And you think about, you and I talk about not just trauma, but complex trauma, which is what? The layering of traumatic events and abuse over and you can just hear the complex trauma here. It's layer on layer on layer on layer. And that is a powerful process, powerfully harmful, powerfully confusing, powerfully exhausting, right? It's all part of that. Steve, if you and I, I feel like we need to do this because we know we're talking to this partner and other partners, but what about the addict side of this for a minute?
Hmm.
This pattern that we're hearing her describe is all too familiar
Oh, yeah.
to us in our addictions and guys we've worked with for, 20 plus years. It's this, it's this, initial secrecy. He's going about doing his acting out. And that's for lots of reasons. It's the way he copes with life. It's to handle his stress. It's to handle some, crazy adventurism or pleasure seeking that he has. But whatever the cause is, he goes into those behaviors. He does them stealthily. What we call, we've been doing some work with, Dr. Minwala lately, the secret sexual basement, right, that he disappears into and the acting out. And then what happens? She discovers it. She discovers it. She sees the signs. She happens to look at his phone one day. She overhears a conversation. And then the whole crisis hits. And then out of what I would suspect is kind of a knee-jerk, desperate reaction on his part, he makes some promises and gets sober for a little while. But doesn't get into real recovery, right? She says he's never been in recovery, but he does get short-term sobriety to kind of hold things together, right? To keep her appeased, to keep her at bay. And then that goes on for a little while, and then we're right back, and he enters into the same cycle again.
Yeah.
How many times have
Absolutely.
you and I seen that, Steve? And in our own lives, in our heavy addiction years, around and around and around and around, and our poor partners get stuck in that spin cycle of ours.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, PBSE podcast hosts Mark and Steve here with a special message about our revolutionary online recovery program for addict spouses and couples called Dare to Connect. Multiple times every week, we get messages from subscribers in the program. They're people just like you. They're trying to heal from the devastation of sex and porn addiction and betrayal trauma. And here's a few of our most recent submissions. Here's one from an addict in recovery. It says, D2C has principles that everyone should utilize regardless of their circumstances. It doesn't matter your coping mechanisms. It matters that you want to work towards genuine connection with your partner.
That's awesome. Another testimony from an addict continues on. My wife is just starting out in training as a licensed therapist. Dare to Connect has been far more useful to her than her degree.
Wow.
The way Mark and Steve apply what they've learned is always so redemptive. D2C has opened doors for my relationship that I thought would be shut forever. Mark and Steve are an incredible resource of information on the subject of sex addiction and betrayal trauma. We could not do this journey without their help.
Here's one from a partner who's been with us for nearly a year. I want you both to know that it is because of you guys and D2C that I'm able to be in the place that I am today. I will always be grateful to you both for your feedback and prompt replies to my questions. I can't even come close to putting it into words how valuable my time spent with y'all this past year has been to my life. Thank you for everything you taught me about betrayal trauma and boundaries and thinking errors and loving myself and making myself a priority and standing up for myself.
Love that submission. And then as we close out here today, guys, one more account from another addict in recovery. I wish I had a platform like this 14 years ago where I could have learned and done the hard work of recovery before I had done all this damage to myself and to my spouse. And to be candid with all of you, that's exactly why we created Dare to Connect. Mark and I found ourselves in that place. Messages like these and the others like them, they're what Dare to Connect really is all about, guys, and why Mark and I do what we do. Whether you're an addict or a partner of an addict, And no matter where you find yourself in the recovery process, Dare to Connect can take you to the next level. Don't wait another day to catapult your recovery forward. Today is your day for change. Visit us at daretoconnectnow.com to pick up your free 2-week trial of Dare to Connect today. Well, and like you said before, I mean, with each turn of the cycle, so many things happen in rapid fashion, right? Not just for the partner, but on the addict side too. When we
Yep.
aren't finding proper interventions, when we aren't engaging with the right resources, when we're myopic in the process and trying to do it alone, I mean, it's firsthand experience, right? I mean, you get to a point where, our brains are evidence-based. And for the addict, it's not just a downward cycle for the partner. It's without, again, some sort of outside input. We as addicts, we start to just lose hope and we become toxically comfortable is what I'm going to say
Mm.
with the pattern.
Yeah, toxically comfortable, or possibly even justifying, rationalizing, minimizing.
Sure.
Right? It's just who I am. How dare she try to, interrupt this I mean, who knows? The
Yeah.
addict is quite a wonder as to what it can come up with in relation to thinking errors around all of this. But it sounds like this guy's just sort of disappeared into the cycle, right? Dr. Jekyll
Yeah.
and Mr. Hyde. He becomes Mr. Hyde more and more and more and more. And not only is she losing herself, he's losing or has lost himself.
For sure.
Right? Yeah.
Well, and and so where does this bring us, right? When we start to get to this point, I mean, for me, and I do teach this to clients, admittedly, my experience tells me, and Mark, I'd love your thoughts on this. If I have to give up, if I have to rip bricks off the side of the bank wall, right, or rip out the ATM or whatever in order to make this work, now we're talking about, I think, regardless of the person, we're looking at the cost becoming too high to
Yeah.
maintain a relationship, right? Where the rubber meets the road. Everybody has different bottom lines and different, like, this is how far I can go. But I would say that one is kind of integral to the human condition and probably universal, whatever other bottom lines are in place, is when we get to that point where we are losing truly pieces of ourselves. I've got to be someone different in this relationship than I actually am, right? I have to swap out parts of me that aren't true to me or put on a show, right?
Yeah, I have to give away and allow to be swept aside my deepest core authentic wants and needs.
Yeah,
Right? They're just off the table.
yeah.
And you look at that, and it's like, okay, where does that leave me?
Well, and
Yeah.
yeah, well, we use oftentimes when this discussion comes up for practical purposes, at least I do in my clinic, I use like the analogy of a business merger because sometimes it helps us to see it a little more logical when this is so emotionally charged, right? A business merger, which is the merging of two companies, right? Why do businesses merge? Because there's a mutual benefit in being connected, right? There's a mutual benefit. One company's widgets and another company's product, they coalesce, right? They
Yeah, yeah.
align.
One plus one equals three or five or 10 or
Yeah,
20.
that's how that's how a merger's supposed to work. That's how, on an emotional level. That's how relationships are supposed to work, right? You're an awesome person. I'm an awesome person. We can do something exceptionally awesome together.
Right.
And obviously, every relationship has highs and lows. But again, if from a merger perspective, when does a merger dissolve? When the two companies' visions are not just diverging, but they've now become incompatible,
They're
right?
good.
You are now making widgets that either compete with or in some way, hurt my widgets,
Yeah.
right? What I'm producing, like we're now running counterculture to each other. Or in order for my company to get along with your company, I now have to be a different company than I ever was,
Yeah.
right? I have to lose myself in this venture in order for us to stay partners. And that's what we're talking about here, right? And so scary choices, but I would say that based on my personal and professional experience, that is where you do have to start asking that, and then you have to start pairing it with difficult questions. What making the pros and cons list, right? Because relationships and the ending of them is always complicated, just like a business merger. There's the logistical side of it. There's the financial side of it. There's The kid side of it, we don't know if this partner has
We
children or
don't.
not.
She didn't
But I
mention.
mean, those all those things complicated, right?
Well, and there's a really hard question, and I would tell you that my wife faced this years ago when she finally had got to the place where she's like, I think this might be over. She's an incredibly loyal person, loyal. I mean, her loyalty is mind blowing to me. And there was a handful of years when it got really bad where staying was about being loyal for her. But here's where the crossover point came for her. She said, "Okay, this is about loyalty, but now it's entered the realm where it's self-abandonment." She was abandoning herself, giving away herself, losing her identity, losing or lost her voice. She was about to disappear,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where does it move from loyalty to self-abandonment? By sticking around.
Yeah,
Hard questions.
absolutely. Right. What am I leaving along the road? So definitely some things to consider, on the part of a partner here in this process. I, you know, if we consider like in the trenches, right? When is it time to leave? There are some things to look for besides just this, this authenticity piece, right? Because it isn't just, when do I give pieces away of myself? It's also what's been the overall trajectory of this, right? When I'm just Mr. Analogy today, but when a stock investor looks at the stock market, right, or is at his portfolio, the minute is there's a downturn, does he bail? Not usually, not if he's smart,
No.
right? But there does come a point where it's like, okay, I've got to, cut and run because the trajectory is just getting more and more bleak. And trajectory means something, right?
Yeah, he's looking at all the signs and everything going on and the projections, and he sees the curve start to go.
Yeah. And the potential, right? Potential for growth, all of that down the road. So, like, for example, how does that work out in actual relationship terms? Here are some things to consider, right? When you're looking at this trajectory wise. So, if he's not taking recovery actions as well as his attitude with it, right? Is he truly being, this isn't even in our list here, but what does actual accountability look like for him? Right now in Dare to Connect, we just started a brand new module. If you're considering the program, we're still offering a 2-week free trial. Daretoconnectnow.com is where you can come grab. That's a great time to join. We just started a new month, maybe 6-week long module. In addition to answering interactive questions and things, we always have a topic going, and we just launched into communication. And
Yeah.
just today, we had an addict session this morning, as of
Toxic.
this recording, where we're talking about defensive styles, right?
Yes. Yes.
How willing is he to be accountable? Or is he accountable with caveats? Well, yeah, I did this, but right?
Yeah.
Or
Or
yeah, this happened.
accountability.
Well, but you
Accountability.
did this too, or
Accountability means getting caught.
yes,
That's my
absolutely right.
account. I
Yes.
get caught. Right?
You got me.
Is that accountability? I mean, you and I, Steve. This is one of the premises all throughout all the podcasts and all of our programs is honesty, transparency is an absolute bare bones must in a relationship, period.
Yep. If
If
you do
we
not
don't
have
have
honesty,
honesty,
you do not have a
you
relationship.
don't. And it appears here it's not there, or it's so sporadic that only comes when forced or
Yeah.
caught. Right? These are all things to look at on that trajectory. He does no counseling. He's not involved in a support group. He's not accountable. He's not honest.
Yep.
So what does this look like going forward?
Yeah, in what ways is he proactive? Is he trying to seek other outside help or resources? Is he even we have one of the components of the D2C program is support groups. Again, it's a great time to join the group because we have 3 live sessions a week. We have the support groups on the weekend. We just started over in the 12 steps in that group. What's
Good.
step 1? Powerlessness and unmanageability, right? Coming to accept the fact that our lives have become unmanageable because of this nonsense, right? So this is exactly the kind of thing that a guy in this is he in a place where he's even recognizing that, look, what I'm doing, whether it's well intentioned or not, it's not working.
Yeah.
It's not working,
Yep.
and something different needs to happen if something different is going to happen.
Well, and
Right?
just the fact that he's living in his own deception and discovery cycle. He goes and lives this secret sexual basement life with these other women outside the marriage, breaking the marriage contract, shattering the agreement that has been there for 21 years. And he stays in that deception, living in that secret basement until what? Until he's discovered. And then he starts the whole thing again. Is that any way of life for the addict?
Yeah.
That's why I got into recovery finding. I got so sick and tired of living life that way that I wasn't going to live one more minute
Yeah.
in complicity, deception, discovery, and do anything to me today, but try to make me not live authentically, and you're going to have a crazy person on your hands.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But he
Well, there's a
doesn't
couple.
have that.
Well, there's a couple ways to reframe this thinking, right? I mean, one way that we talked about beforehand is what am I willing to live with and at what cost to myself? We kind of talked about that authentic piece. But if
Mhm.
you put it in kind of that business terminology of the stock market, because I think this does apply, is the venture worth the risk? Right? If
Yeah.
I look at this, how this quote unquote stock has performed, I have a 21-year track record with this stock. How has
Mhm.
it performed? Are there any current indicators to say that it's going to change? Again, no one of these questions is going to be your determiner to this partner who's listening and to other partners, but hopefully it's helping you to formulate different ways to look at this as you're making. I mean, we're not talking about a coupleship that's been together for 6 months. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You have a pretty long track record in history. And if you pair that with his current attitude, approach, willingness, openness right now, that's going to give you a pretty good idea about where this is probably going to keep trending. Right?
Because we're talking basics, like there's no vulnerability or
Correct.
disclosure on his part.
Yep.
I'll tell you the one that is highly offensive to me, and it offends me because that old me that used to do it offends me today. Charm, pouring on the charm without sustained change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's duplicitous. That's gaslighting. That's manipulation. Let's just call it what it is. It's psychological abuse. I'm going to
Yeah.
charm you and push all your vulnerability buttons because I've been with you 21 years and I know just where to hit you at your weak places as I charm you. But I don't intend to change. I just intend to just sort of, blow things over for a little while.
Yeah.
That aspect
Absolutely.
is so disturbing.
For sure. Well, and anytime a relationship ends, it's a tragedy. You know, we've named our program Dare to Connect. For addict spouses and couples. It's not as we said the other day, it's not dare to divorce or
No.
dare to separate or dare to, right? But that being said, it's tragedy when a coupleship ends. But and I mean this authentically in my mind, and I think Mark would echo this. The only bigger tragedy than that is two people staying in a relationship where you shouldn't. That's
Yeah,
the only bigger tragedy
I
than
agree.
ending a relationship
Because
is
there's,
where one well-intentioned partner is dying on the vine or not able to move
yep,
forward and missing out on other opportunities because one is not showing up as an honest broker or
that,
not showing up in good faith. Relationships do not need perfection or anything even close to work. But they need honesty, they need accountability, they need progression, they need potential, and they need change. And
yeah,
if nothing is changing, then nothing is changing. And
yeah,
that's again where something to
because
really
the
think
other
about here.
aspect of this that we haven't mentioned, if you, of all the things we've talked about, to me, there's one big glaring part of this. What is it time to leave? Her description of losing herself, her sense of identity, all well-being being washed aside. Like you don't stay in a relationship like that where all that harm and damage is happening to you because of it,
Yes. Yeah,
right? What am I
absolutely.
willing to live with and at what cost to myself? The cost to her is heavy.
Yes. Relationships are built on two people, sometimes stumbling, but sharing the load, pulling the cart together, right? It is not where one is pulling both sides of the cart while the other one lays on the ground with a pina colada in one hand and sunglasses with the little umbrella in the drink and just says mush.
Well, I'm
It's
going to
not
say
how this
something, I know
works.
what I'm going to say is going to be horribly triggering, but I feel like it needs to be said. It's like this partner is down on the ground pulling both sides of the cart, and he's back in the wagon with some affair partner.
Mm,
If I'm going to be blunt.
yeah.
I mean, how long do you do such a thing?
Yeah. And not only that, but it's saying things like, you're not the only one pulling the wagon. I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure you're the only one pulling the wagon? Maybe you need to look at the cart again,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, there's just so many elements. You use the term abuse, and we would absolutely stand by that.
Yeah,
It is psychologically and emotionally abusing.
yeah.
One thing to keep in mind if you're listening to this podcast and if you have a difficult time with the term abuse, we know that many do, including addicts. This is one thing that I have found recently for me that helps me to overcome that barrier if I'm open to it. Sometimes I think why we find that terminology so offensive is because we think that in order to be abusive, that means that I am intentionally doing something with full cognition or full intent. Like I'm doing something automatically nefarious. And we understand that for many addicts, a lot of the things that are going on here, the denial, the blame shifting, the lack of accountability, these are dysfunctional survival strategies that he's learned over time. But intention doesn't equate to outcome. I am a self-admitted emotional abuser. I did it to Brittany, my wife, for years, years and years and years. Now, did I ever intend to do that? Of course not. I never set up in our marriage to like, geez, how can I mind screw with my partner or gaslight her or, do any of the things that I did. I didn't do it intentionally. I was trying to survive, trying to get by, trying to do the best I could with dysfunctional skill sets. But that doesn't change the fact that it still was what it was.
That it was still abuse. And I
Absolutely.
know for me, when I first heard the word, Mark, you've been abusive to your wife, psychologically abusive, emotionally abusive, right? Withholding and disappearing on her. And when I hear the word abuse or the thought of me being an abuser, I instantly think, wait, whoa, whoa, what do you're telling me that I'm a domestic violence guy, that I beat my
Yeah.
wife to a pulp?
Yeah.
See, this is why it's resisted so much, because we don't think of all the various layers and kinds of abuse,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
So much of what I did
Yeah.
was abusive.
I remember when our therapist brought up a diagram of the cycle of abuse in a session with Brittany, and I about lost my mind.
That you did.
I was so angry. I
How
was
dare you?
livid,
How dare you?
right? But we guys, there needs to be an openness and a willingness to see where we're at. It doesn't mean that our partners are the arbiters of truth all the time, and it doesn't mean that we just take their reality and we accept it 100% as fact. But if our partner is in pain, the pain's valid, whether or not we're intending it, whether or not, we can see it. It's our responsibility to empathize with it, try to connect with it, and make corrections where we can. And unfortunately, in this dynamic, we're not seeing any of that based on the narrative we've gotten here.
Not at all.
So,
So if we shift, Steve, back to this partner for a minute
yeah.
and kind of talk about some practicals, tools in the trenches for clarity and healing for her. There are a number of things that we would invite her to look at. We always talk about boundaries. We are big boundaries guys,
Huge
especially
on
for
that.
trade partners and for addicts as well. Addicts are terrible at boundaries, right? It's not just a partners thing, it's for both. But we would ask her with regard to her boundaries, what does she need to truly feel and be safe? What are her wants and needs around true safety and truly not losing her identity and herself and being stomped on? What are her non-negotiables? That's a very important phrase, isn't it? There
Absolutely.
have to be lines that if they are crossed, that is it. What are my non-negotiables? Does she clearly know what those boundaries and that is? We do encourage her to get real clear about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, there are a lot of pieces to this, right? There's a lot of moving
There's
parts.
a lot.
But making sure that you have a support system to be grounded in your own reality is I think so important.
Critical.
And again, we've talked about Dare to Connect. It's an excellent resource. That's why we created it, and we're always refining it. It's an excellent resource. We hope that you'll come and check it out at daretoconnectnow.com. But it's not the only one by any means. If it nothing else, at a bare minimum, I mean, podcasts like this can be helpful. But one of the many things that D2C offers, in addition to all the other things, is live interaction with other people who get it and who are in the same position. being in a situation like the one that this partner is describing, it's very easy to become myopic in your thinking. It's so isolating. It's
Mhm.
very hard to be able to share or even very hard to find even a place that's safe to share this kind of stuff. Right. I think about like my family dynamics. I mean, I can think of multiple well-intended family members that never in a million years would I have said to them, "Hey, Brittany and I are thinking about ending our marriage." It would have resulted in everything from a lecture to a guilt trip to a disownment to anything in between, right? And so you need to find a group of people, whether it's 12-step based or otherwise, of people who get it so that
Yeah.
you can get realistic perspective. Because otherwise, what is a spouse left to? The addict, who, as again, I'm outing myself in this process. The addict loves because what? I can gaslight, manipulate, deflect, minimize all day long, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a huge piece.
She's got it.
Also, and not to say that this has already been kind of implied by this partner putting this in there, but good self-reflection exercises. So, for example, journaling. We always recommend journaling, but specifically, if you are in a place where you're listening to this and you're kind of questioning if I'm in this place, even though it's scary, ask yourself questions like, am I growing or disappearing in this marriage?
Yeah.
Is my authentic self more coming alive or being stifled?
Yeah.
Am I more able to explore and develop and grow in who I am, or am I being increasingly kind of shoved into a box?
Yeah. Yeah. What happens if I journal about, and as I look at the history and what's going on and what has gone on, and I do an A/B list, for example, and compare what he says versus what he does.
Yeah.
What does that list? What does that side by side look like?
How are those lining up? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. All extremely important. Well, we just as we wrap up here, we're probably way over time. I haven't even been looking at the clock, but we love coming into your hearts and homes for half an hour ish each week. Just think if you'd let us in for 4.5, 5 hours, 6 hours a week.
Yeah.
Once again, guys, if you haven't tried Dare to Connect, come join us, daretoconnectnow.com. We'd love to have you come try the program, see what the excitement's about. But we do really do reaffirm for this partner the strength, and even looking at this, we wish her the best of luck. And also this addict, we hope that we not knowing much about him, hopefully he's open to this, is able to listen to this episode. Maybe it can shake some things loose or maybe cause a shift in some way, which would be great. But we do encourage you, partner, please don't rush into a decision. The decision to end a relationship very rarely happens impulsively or quickly. So, if
Hmm.
it feels right today, it should still feel right tomorrow and the next day and the next.
Yeah.
But we wish you the best of luck in going forward
And
on
just
that.
reminding her, last of all, that you are worth safety. You are worth truth. You are worth love. Whether it's in this marriage or the next relationship, you deserve these good things. And being battered, just being in this kind of a cycle for 21 years, you can start to forget that. Just how worthy you are of all these good things. And it's hope, whether she decides to stay or to leave, she absolutely can and must reclaim her voice, reclaim her worth, and reclaim her sovereign future.
Mhm.
So we
Yeah,
just support her in that.
absolutely. Well, guys, have a great rest of your day. Hopefully, we'll see you soon and Dare to Connect. But if you do want to send in questions to the podcast, as always, you're welcome to send those in actually to the same website. If you go to daretoconnectnow.com, there is a banner up at the top with the PBSE podcast logo. Feel free to click on that, and there's a contact form at the bottom that you can send those questions into us, and we get to those in order of them being sent in.
And we're about a month behind right now.
Yep, ish.
All
So,
right.
or just come in tomorrow, and you can get feedback right now.
Hey, come to
Just saying.
come to the partnership session this week on Wednesday.
That's right. Absolutely. All right, guys.
All right.
Have a great rest of your day. Be safe, and we'll catch you next week.
Everything expressed on the PBSE podcast are the opinions of the hosts and the participants and is for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast should not be considered mental health therapy or as a substitute thereof. It is strongly recommended that you seek out the clinical guidance of an individual qualified mental health professional. If you're experiencing thoughts of suicide, self-harm, or a desire to harm others, please dial 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.